Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. As the coaching carousel continues to spin in the NFL, the latest on the Titans comes from Dan Graziano of ESPN, who tweeted this afternoon, the Titans have reportedly contacted Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan to schedule a second and an in-person interview for their head coaching position. Callahan did his virtual interview last week with the Titans, who are also set to virtually interview Dan Quinn for the first time tomorrow. Around the NFL, in Pittsburgh, it does not look like there will be a change. Mike Tomlin reportedly telling his team he will return in 2024. Elsewhere, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh completed his interview with the Atlanta Falcons. College hoops tonight, Vanderbilt hosting number 13 Auburn at Memorial Gym. That's an 8 p.m. tip-off. And the Belmont Bruins play host to UNI at the Curb Center starting at 8 o'clock. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hump day on the Blaine and Mickey show. It's a party. Bananas continuing to cycle through some of these song selections. Suggested this was our man Bam's selection. A little cool in the gang. Start the show today.
Like the song, but I don't want that for the song.
All right.
For me. That's me personally. Yeah, I mean, we got to vote. You know, y'all the voters too, your fans. I mean, you know, hey, I want something to get hyped.
We'll just keep running
That's
them.
just me, though. I may want relaxing music.
Ruling them in and out.
I had to figure out I wanted relaxing music when I came out the tunnel. I was going to have a heart attack if I put on.
Yeah, that was a revelation, man. Most people got the loudest and most aggressive.
Yeah, see, people think that, right? They think, oh, no, I was real, calm, cool. I didn't need, I was naturally built hyped.
It kept you in the middle.
Yeah, it balanced me out.
I got you.
It balanced me out. So here it's like, oh, man, dang, we on there. No, I want to be excited about being on air every day. That's hard to do. Just ask yourself, are you excited every day you go into your job? Ooh, people. Just people.
Sure.
I bet the majority would say, some say not.
I am.
I could say I am, but I want to get jacked up.
Yes.
To a whole nother level.
Well, I'll tell you what, you want fans to get mad. Have like a player in any sport say, yeah, man, we just weren't feeling it today. You know, man, we just had a hard time getting going today.
What happened?
We just had a hard time getting it. Oh, that drives fans crazy. Hey, man, you can't say that. Like a player will say sometimes, they were more ready to play than we were. They just came out with a lot more fire than we did. Things like that. Boy,
nobody would have said that on our team.
That gets people hot.
Yeah, you get paid to go out there and do that, bro. A lot of money, man. You better, man. We must not forget, most of these guys are not trained in media, what to say, what's not to say. So they're learning on the fly. Nobody cares about it, I know. And some guys, are gun shy to media and don't like to talk. And some guys do like to talk to the media. It's just whatever fits your boat there and keep it moving. And, some guys aren't trained in media. So, like for me, I took communications there at Ball State, one of the best communication schools in the country.
David Letterman School, and named after him, right?
Yeah, watch out. Banana. Hey, what happened to my computer? Like, it was up, I'm looking at myself, and all of a sudden it says, meet playlist. What did you do, Bananas?
You got to press log in over there.
No, it was already logged in. It was already logged in. I was looking at myself. And then I wasn't.
I'll come in there and look at it.
Log in. I do not know how to work any. Uh-oh. I pushed exit.
What are you doing over there?
I'm pushing exit now because this should not be up here. Meet playlist. That's what you just played.
I'll come and fix it during the break.
Yeah, this is when you got to help out a ding-dong worker computer because I do not know how to work it. Speaking of myself, not making know how to do everything in this building.
We have never been given a login for anything on these computers. Anything gets logged off, sorry.
What's that tell you?
NFL, not for long.
We don't know. I know no codes to nothing.
Yeah.
They said, no.
That's what I'm for, guys.
Yes.
No, they said we got to keep Blaine and Mickey away from all that stuff,
Yeah,
man.
just keep him at arm's length from logins to anything. Dan Graziano, apparently he's logged into something with the Titans. He had two things today. Wrote a story for ESPN. You know, they're projecting who's going to get what job and all this kind of stuff. His prediction, Aaron Glenn would be the next coach for the Titans. But then just a few minutes ago, he tweeted, that Brian Callahan's going to get a second interview with the Titans.
Oh.
He's the first reported second interview. A bunch of these guys haven't had their first yet. 4 of the 10 that we know of. Reported interviews.
That's the one Blaine said, he'd bring his dad.
Bring his dad along.
Oh, yeah. That's right, Brian Callahan. But I do not know if who's going to be a good coach. I do not. A lot of these guys who haven't been head coaches, you don't know what you're going to get. You know when you're interviewing them, true leader type guys.
Yeah.
You just know it. So you could be a great play caller, doesn't mean you're going to be a great head coach. So I have no idea. I'm not sitting down interviewing these guys. Big name guys are always easier because you've seen what they can do. Essentially, they're not entertaining into that. I think because they probably think most of those coaches are set in their ways and they want to be running the ship. So that's cool, too. So they want to go young with the new model of collaboration, if you want to use that word. And everybody kind of works together, and the younger guys are kind of all on board with that. There's no past history where you could say, well, this is the way we do it. And, kind of just mix in with the rest of the group. So that's where we're at. Broad net. Offense, defense. I'm surprised we haven't even had any special team guys. Guys with losing records, good records, bad offense, defense. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't dictate if you're going to be a good head coach. And I say that Mike Vrabel was 32nd ranked defense with the Texans, and he was a good head coach. Great leadership skills. Just didn't want to play ball with everybody else. See, so I think they want some of all of that except for we want you to play ball with everybody else. Just reading the tea leaves. That's where I'm at right now. But to say which one of those guys without knowing any of those guys, and I like calling around and asking different people, but they're not me. So they don't know what I would see, but they can give me their general opinion. Mm-hmm. And I haven't even done that because I just think you just don't know. Like Aaron Glenn, I could say this about him because I know him. He's a great human being. Yeah. And that's high on my checkmark list. That don't mean you're going to be a good coach, a head coach. Yeah. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he's a good human being.
As a player, what did you like in a head coach?
I really like the interpersonal skills. When you have, they can, talk to every position group, get to know you as a person to show that they actually care who you are, not just your skills. That really goes a long way to me. Leadership skills come and go. At the end of the day, at the pro level, man, you're leading yourself to whatever you want to do as far as your success. Like when I hear the culture, and I think I'm getting a little perturbed myself hearing that word because I even say it. It's just like the actual players are building the culture. At the pro level, it's the actual players. Mm-hmm. Now, the model of what you want that guy to be is who he is, and that's eventually what the team becomes because of when he's speaking to you. But when I think about the Titans under Vrabel, I feel like they just regurgitate what he said. So to me, that was he was creating a culture of fear. Do as I say, not as I do. So I'm me as a player. I don't like that. I never like that. You should be held to people in higher positions should be held at a higher standard. And I've said this multiple times than the people at the lower level. Player is lower than the head coach, so we should hold him to a higher standard. So, and then you should empower players to play to the best of their ability. and not have them out there playing out of fear that they're going to lose their job. That is a big one for me. And actually, leadership. So each group should be empowered, secondary, linebackers, offensive line, to help one another out and feel empowered and boldened, and you're only as good as the last player on your roster. So the worst player in each position, I don't think the worst, but the last guy that probably ever played, you must feel comfortable when he gets out there that you can win with him. And then that means then you have built the right culture. So those are really big for me. And I always say, they talk about, now we in this generation that you got to like the other guy. I'm not a big proponent of that. Like, you got to like to work with the guy. You don't have to go hang out with the guy. Mm. So when you come through the door, all buck stops at the door. Personal, anything outside of football, when you come through the door, it stays out there. So whether you like somebody, whether you got an argument with your girlfriend, your mother asking you for some money, no, I don't want at the pro. I don't want to know none of that when we get in through this door.
Right.
So when you get out here, we all gonna be kumbaya and we're gonna play together. Cause guess what? It's your job. It's your job. It's your job. So that's kind of how I operated, and I haven't changed any. That's some people don't operate that way. I gotta like the guy. No, you don't. Anybody is any profession tell me that they like everybody in their freaking office, you got to be freaking kidding me. That ain't you, but you working with them. Yeah. See, so it's no different. So you got to come together for a common cause, and that's to win games and play well so you get a Super Bowl. That's it. And guess what? You do that, everybody else, you eventually it will reciprocate back to you and it get to your pocket. That is what will happen. So I have no idea if any of those guys will be good. None whatsoever. I just hope whoever they hire, that they are.
Yeah.
That's why I keep saying you can get duped in these interviews. Somebody can sound and speak this language and oh man. Yeah, you gotta be like, this dude doesn't know left from right. He must have read some really good books.
You think they got duped by Wiz?
Right.
They got crazy, like, we got to hire this guy.
So bad. I think he was going to go to the Steelers, or his agent played him like that. I don't know.
I think they got played.
Oh.
But it made it look like, hey, if you don't pull the trigger right now, he's getting another job. And they like a fish to the bait.
So that would be these initial interviews to me is kind of weeding out who you think fits the model that you want and the personality and the fit with your organization. Got to start there. Because sometimes you can say, oh, man, this guy knows all the X and O's. And you can be like, but, man, he is not a good fit here. So sometimes fit and it'll eventually work itself out.
Tighten up. Tony in the F&M Bank chat says, you're hired, Blaine.
See, that's what I'm getting at.
He said, Blaine, you sound like you're doing the Zoom interview for the job. You got it. So tighten up. Tony is just anointed Blaine as the next Titan head coach.
Oh, I definitely
Blaine.
Avoided all that.
What could Joseph and me do on your staff? Like, what would we be?
What would you I think we'll think about that over the break.
Always passing the bar. All right, we'll ask John Glennon. Maybe he knows what Joseph and Bananas in my job could be, because we'll have John Glennon next to the Nashville Post. He went and did a whole bunch of digging. How many other interviews, and who has the most of all these Titans candidates? Some of these guys are really, really, really popular guys with the, now 9 openings in the NFL. We'll get to all that and more with John Glennon next. It's Blaine and Mickey, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors.
If someone hasn't asked you already, maybe you've asked yourself, what's your resolution for 2024? Well, luckily for you, thanks to the team at Cool Ray Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical, I've got some great ideas on how you can take care of yourself and your home better this year. So maybe you want to be better about saving money. Well, consider a $69 tune-up on your home's heating system so you can ensure your HVAC system operates at the highest efficiency. And if you need a new system this year, Cool Ray's industry-leading warranties save you money in the long run. Or maybe you want to be better about taking care of your health. So if you're stocking the fridge and freezer with good food because you're hoping to eat better, don't let the next power outage from a storm spoil that food. You also can get a free estimate on whole home generators from Cool Ray's electrical team. The generators will also keep any medical equipment or other necessary appliances on 24/7, rain or shine. So find the resolution you can stick to this year and schedule your next visit for any of their services at coolray.com. That's coolray.com.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Titans got 10 head coaching candidates. Dan Graziano says keep an eye on Aaron Glenn. Same guy also reports a second interview with Brian Callahan. I know our man John Glennon of the Nashville Post has just been immersed in these candidates. He's just immersed in it. He's got like the board with the strings connected to the other strings, and it's in his basement, and he's trying to figure out who would come with who and all the stuff. Has this just driven you completely mad yet, John?
That is not true.
Well, it's good off-season speculation. It's good conjecture, right? If it wasn't for this, we'd all be looking for topics to talk about, and all still talking about the struggling Titans offense and defense and things like that. So, hey, if nothing else, it leaves us plenty of speculation room here.
All right, you've written a bunch of stuff about these guys for the Nashville Post that we'll get into, but I wanted to ask you this first: is there a guy who you are surprised that we have not heard this person is interviewing for the job? Like when you found out Mike Vrabel's on the way out, you thought, boy, they're probably going to interview this person, and then there's been no news of that yet.
I think they've covered probably most of the kind of the it names. I guess, one maybe that comes to mind, that certainly seems to be getting a little traction and getting a little bit more recognition here in the past few weeks is the Bucs offensive coordinator, Tampa's Dave Canales, no doubt butchering his name, but
No, that's right.
No, that's right.
What's that?
That's right. You're nailing it,
No,
man.
well, all right. Kudos to me, but yeah, he's done a good job with quarterbacks, throughout his career, whether it was in Seattle, with Russell Wilson, and then with Geno Smith, and certainly, I'm sure had a big role this year in kind of turning around Baker Mayfield, and the Bucs are still alive in the playoffs, and Baker Mayfield and the offense are a big reason why. So he is one name probably that I would have thought would have showed up, and who knows? I guess it's not out of the question that he might at some point.
Well, they haven't talked to him, but they've apparently reached out to 10 other people. And you wrote basically an article and you compiled just how popular some of these coaches are as far as how many teams want to speak to them. And Ben Johnson is the runaway guy right now, right? He has multiple interviews.
Ben is the most wanted man at this point. There's 7 teams without a permanent head coach. That list includes the Raiders because right now Antonio Pierce is only interim. So, of the teams that are in search of a head coach, 6 have requested interviews with Ben Johnson after what he had done with the Lions the past couple of years. I think 2 years ago with the Lions, first time in franchise history, they had 4,000 passing yards, 2,000 rushing yards in the same year. This year, I think both the last couple of years they finished in the top 10 in both, yards and points and so forth. So certainly appears to be the hottest of the candidates in this coaching cycle. But others are certainly not far behind either in terms of interest around the league. You look at guys like Bobby Slowick and Mike McDonald. Dan Quinn are all getting multiple requests as well, and then even Aaron Glenn, as you referenced earlier, and Brian Callahan, who apparently has a second interview set up with the Titans as well.
Hanging out with John Glennon at Glennon Sports. You can follow him there on Twitter, doing his work now for the Nashville Post.
Well, John, I do recall you saying that you would bet or spend $1 on if Vrabel was to get fired. First of all, I have to ask you, what did you spend that $1 on? Or do you want to double down, because I know you're a big gambler, in predicting who the next head coach will be? You're going to get that compound interest.
Let's see. Yeah. I've decided to hold on to that $1. Like, I'm wise. I'm saving it. I didn't make any rash decisions with that big $1. So, yeah, I'm ready to double down. And maybe I'm cheating a little bit here because, as you guys referenced, and we just saw here on Twitter, Dan Graziano of ESPN saying Brian Callahan has a second interview request. That's not necessarily saying he's topping the charts because some of these other guys are a little bit behind. They can't get the interview request yet because their teams are still in the playoffs. But he's the only one we know right now is getting that second request, or at least reported anyway. So I'll cheat a little bit, and that's who I'll throw my big double down dollar on, Brian Callahan. Guy who's been offensive coordinator for the Bengals the past 5 years. Certainly we have seen, Joe Burrow become a tremendous quarterback. I don't know if you can say Brian Callahan gets a ton of credit for that. Joe Burrow was pretty good coming into the league, but certainly, he improved greatly from first to second season. And he's made the use of a lot of offensive weapons up there. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd. A couple other things about him. The offensive line has not always been a strength in Cincinnati, so he's kind of learned to adapt and had a good offense under those circumstances. And we know that is a similar situation in Tennessee. And I think another, a point that Brian Callahan has in his, regard here is kind of what he did with quarterback Jake Browning this year after Joe Burrow went down. Jake Browning came in, had never played a snap in the NFL, was an undrafted free agent from a few years ago. And this guy comes in and 7 starts, 9 games altogether. He throws for almost 2,000 yards, and winds up with a quarterback rating of 98.4, 12 touchdown passes. So, I think that's, as I say, another point for Brian Callahan when you're comparing the various candidates.
Well, with John Glennon with the Nashville Post, I guess I want to ask you this. I want to put this out to our fans, too, is who would you not want to be the Tennessee Titans head coach?
Well, of the 10 candidates,
I don't know.
The reported requests, I would say the toughest sell for, hey, this is going to be our new head coach, would have to be Thomas Brown, the offensive coordinator from Carolina. And that's not to say that maybe someday he won't be a good head coach, but it would be a pretty tough sell based on how terrible Carolina's offense was in his first year as offensive coordinator. Now, there are a number of factors. You got a rookie quarterback there. He was only the play caller for about half the games, et cetera, et cetera. But nonetheless, I think it'd be tough to walk up to the podium and say, here's our guy. Here, look what he did in Carolina last year, and you look at the numbers, and they were pretty woeful. So he would, I think he would probably come in at number 10 of the 10 guys that they're reported to want to interview.
And last one for me on this segment here. Do you think Amy and the Titans are getting treated unfairly with the Vrabel firing? Acting as though the organization and Amy kind of are clueless from the national perspective.
I don't know about that. You can see both sides. In my viewpoint, I don't think that if I was the owner and I don't know everything that goes on behind closed doors, I would not have fired Mike Vrabel. I think, when you look at the overall resume, overall what he had done here and the success he had for a number of years, I think that earns you a little bit of a longer leash when it comes to your team struggling. I said the same thing about John Robinson as general manager as well. I think you have to take the whole, body of work into account there. So, but again, we're not walking the halls of the Titans offices. We're not involved in front office meetings, day after day with the Titans. And you can make a case, certainly, that it was time for Mike Vrabel to go. The last 2 years have been very, very poor. Now there were obviously excuses and reasons with injuries, with personnel, and so forth. But it's not unthinkable that a case could be made to fire a coach who went 7-10 and 6-11 in back-to-back years.
John Glennon, Nashville Post.
Sean, what do you think about Bobby Slowick? I had a guy that I trust who's worked in the league a long time, and he basically said the same thing that I've seen John McClain tweet a couple times, that thought is maybe he's just not quite ready yet. And then also, what do you think that means?
What was the second part of it, Mickey?
That maybe he's just not quite ready. I think I saw McClain tweet that was maybe some thoughts behind the scene. And I have a friend who worked in the league for a long time, and he said, he talked to some people, and they said, he's just 36. Maybe he's just not quite ready. It feels like somebody's going to be ready enough for him, though, this year. Somebody is.
It's certainly, yeah. I mean, you can make that argument, but, you can also say guys have taken that path before. Mike Vrabel was only a coordinator for 1 year. After all, it was only the DC for the Texans for 1 year. Now, he had more time as an assistant than Bobby Slowick did before that. But, you look at guys look at Matt LaFleur. He was an offensive coordinator for 1 year with the Titans. A lot of people said the same thing. Hey, he's not ready. He needs a little more seasoning. He's turned out pretty well, with the Green Bay Packers. Now, again, you run into this the argument or the situation with very, very talented quarterbacks. Like we talked about Brian Callahan with Joe Burrow earlier. Hey, do you give Brian Callahan all kinds of credit because Joe Burrow is excellent? Or do you say Joe Burrow is going to be good no matter who coached him? I wonder if you say this sort of the same thing about Bobby Slowick. Was C.J. Stroud going to be great no matter who coached him, or did Bobby Slowick do a great job turning a rookie quarterback into a guy who threw for 4,000 yards? But boy, the numbers he's put up, and then when you look at what that offense did just last weekend, I know it's a very small sample size, one playoff game. But that Cleveland Browns defense was wreaking havoc all year. We all remember what they did to the Titans. Ugh. And for what the Texans did and what C.J. Stroud did in that game against the Browns, I think that really has to impress you about Bobby Slowick right there.
So that might be the most. Blaine asked you, okay, who's your least of the 10 candidates? The guy you would least want to hire. Is there a type of person? Because I know what the fans want. I think most of the fans want young, offensive boy genius, and there's, myriad possibilities, a bunch of 30-something. I think 6 of these guys are 7 of them are in their 30s of the 10. Do you think there's a type of coach who would be best for this team?
Maybe if something like this, if we were looking at it in past years, I would say, yeah, there's a type, maybe you need a veteran guy because you've got a veteran team. It doesn't necessarily need a huge overhaul, sort of a veteran presence to guide them. But I think really, what we're seeing with the Titans is kind of, the makings of an overhaul, if you will, the changing of the franchise. So I think, whichever coach comes in is really going to get a big chance to sort of put his mark, on this team. Now, you can also say, though, that what's the biggest part of this team and what's the biggest part of virtually any team? It's the quarterback. And you've got in Will Levis a second-year quarterback. The Titans and Titans fans are certainly hopeful that he is a future franchise quarterback. I don't think there's any guarantee about that yet. So from that aspect of it, I can understand why a lot of Titans fans want to say, yeah, bring in somebody with an offensive mind. That way you're going to have not only the coach with an offensive background, he's going to have an offensive coordinator. There's 2 guys, presumably with good offensive backgrounds. The more you get, the better chances you have of a better Will Levis and a better offense after a crummy year. But, that said, even if you get a defensive guy, a guy who is a specialist on that side of the field, such as an Aaron Glenn. I mean, look what Mike Vrabel did, during his time here too. He was a defensive-minded guy, but at least in the first few years, anyway, the Titans certainly had a good offense. So, it's not a death sentence, I don't think, if the Titans get a defensive coordinator who becomes a head coach. Obviously, like I say, in my mind, the more offensive guys you can have, the better chances of an improved Will Levis, of an improved offense are. But I don't think it's the end of the world if you get a defensive guy in there.
John Glennon hanging out with us at Glennon Sports on Twitter, NashvillePost.com. You can read all of his work there.
Hey, JG, I know Derrick Henry did an interview on a podcast there with Bussin' with the Boys, and you wrote an article about that, some of the things that Henry said there. I guess give us your take on what are your thoughts on what he said in interview with Bussin' with the Boys.
Yeah, in some ways it was a little bit, it was similar to what he said after the season finale in terms of looking ahead to the future. Said it's not a closed door, in terms of the Titans, but again, really seem to restate a priority that Super Bowl ring is so much, at the top of his priority list right now. And it's hard to look at, and he didn't say this, but in my opinion, it's probably pretty hard to look at the Titans right now and say that's a Super Bowl contender going into 2024. So, and he said, I understand if that's the end of the line with the Titans. He basically said, I don't have any hard feelings. I understand that's the way the business is sometimes. He said, I'll always be a Titan. But, I've also got priorities. I want to win a Super Bowl ring. And, hey, that's understandable. I mean, look what this guy did for the franchise, and turned into the face of the franchise, helped turn them into a winner, so many things. So I don't think Titans fans can be bitter if he wants to, take a look at somebody with a better shot at reaching the Super Bowl earlier. But then I thought it was interesting, too. Taylor Lewan and Will Compton on Bussin' with the Boys asked, did a good job of asking, hey, do you happen to have any regrets during your tenure here? And he listed a couple. One of them was certainly the fact that it took him a few years to kind of get going. Those first 2 years, he was very candid. He said basically, I'm paraphrasing, but my mind just wasn't in it that much. He said that, he didn't expect to be drafted by the Titans. He was kind of puzzled by the fact he was when they had only recently traded for DeMarco Murray, and he spent too much of those first 2 years kind of wondering, hey, why am I here? What's going on here? Instead of kind of just embracing it, digging in, and doing everything he could. And then, he was helped by various people to change that over the years, and we saw the real Derrick Henry emerge in 2018. Then the other, regret that he has, and understandably so, is that despite the fact that he and the Titans were so good for that stretch, 2019 through 21, when they had the 3 playoff appearances, got to the AFC Championship game and so forth, that they were obviously never able to get that Super Bowl crown. And the more Derrick Henry kind of talked and looked back at those teams, saying that they were so good, so filled with talent and so filled with character, and you don't even realize it when you're playing at the present. But looking back now on it, he kind of said, we had some dogs on that team. We had a squad. So for him, probably even more regretful now when you look back at how close it was.
And lastly, I guess, what are your thoughts on, it seems like the league and the organizations are kind of following in line here with more collaborative GM head coach, and not the head coach have full autonomy on all decisions with an organization. What are your thoughts on that?
The buzzword, collaboration?
Yeah. I know, right?
That certainly has seemed to be the buzzword ever since John Robinson was given the pink slip in terms of looking for collaboration. And, I guess that's maybe the trend. We've seen a lot of coaches over the years, whether it's like a Belichick or a Jim Harbaugh or a Mike Vrabel. I've had plenty of success kind of being sort of the man. But the trend certainly does seem to be these days that we want teams, not necessarily an incredible Uno alpha, making all decisions, but more of a group effort. And even, Ran Carthon, in terms of the next coach, said, yeah, we're going to all be talking about who the next coach is. There's going to be a vote, on who it's going to be. And, I guess if that's what owners want, that's what they'll get. It's yet to be determined if that method is as successful, but that seems to be the idea right now, that if we can get a bunch of minds working in the same direction, if we can take input from a lot of people and come up with the best players to draft or the best coaching staff to make, then we're better off than with just one person being the primary decision maker. So we'll see. We've seen, as I say, we've seen some guys with a lot of authority be pretty good over the years. But the Titans are one of several teams that seem to be heading in a different direction at this point.
Are you surprised Vrabel hasn't done any interviews yet?
I am a little bit, and again, who knows? Maybe he's extremely done an extremely good job of being secretive, and maybe he's had some interest and so forth. But I figured, he's the kind of guy that was ready to jump back in. He certainly doesn't seem to be a guy that lacks for energy or passion. He's still a young guy. He's certainly nowhere near the end of his career. So I am a little bit surprised. I figure certainly there are some teams out there that would be intrigued and would be impressed with what he has done again in the big picture. Last 2 years obviously weren't great, but I think he's still an excellent head coach, and I think he will be. Maybe he's just he's decided he needs a little downtime, but I wouldn't think it's much. That's a guy who lives and breathes and loves football.
Yeah, that's why it's so surprising that he hasn't done an interview. That was shocking. I thought he'd be jumping right back in, but hasn't even had a Zoom interview. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
It's a surprise. But I don't. Again, even if it doesn't happen this year, I don't think it'll take more than a season for him to recharge the batteries.
Yeah.
And his track record for the most part is a very good one. Whether it's here, whether it was an assistant in Houston or in the college ranks as well. So I'm sure Braves will be back.
Well, John, you'll be back on with us. I know that. Appreciate the time today at Glennon Sports. Again, Nashville Post. Lots of good information about all of these coaching hires. If you want to know more, again, check out Johnny's Twitter or just, again, go to NashvillePost.com. Thank you, sir.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Appreciate it, JG.
Yes, sir. Always catching up with our guy, John Glennon. All right. You liking what you're hearing? Again, report that Brian Callahan will have a second interview with the Titans. Dan Graziano, who reported that, also says Aaron Glenn is a name to keep an eye on for the Titan search. What all did he say about that? I'll tell you that next. And again, curious to get your thoughts. You want to weigh in on any of this? Is there somebody you want to get an interview who hasn't? Is there a specific candidate that you like? Got plenty of time to take phone calls from you today. 615-737-1045. Come on, feel the noise with us. If you miss any of the noise, remember, podcast is available wherever you want to consume it. Rate, review, subscribe, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all platforms. You can also just.
That wasn't one of the songs for the intro?
No, I like this song, though.
Yeah.
I got one
was
cooked
a
up
little
for
bit of energy right
top of the 2 o'clock hour.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep searching. Blaine, throw that one in the mix then. I can't believe no one suggested that. That gets people going for sure. This got some people going. Dan Graziano in an article for ESPN about just possible fits in different places. This was the quote. I've been told by a couple of people close to this situation to keep an eye on Glenn, meaning Aaron Glenn, as a strong candidate. The Titans are casting a wide and diverse net. This is one of the tougher ones to call at this point, but Glenn has appeal as a former player, as a part of what Dan Campbell has built in Detroit as the coordinator who graded out the best on either side of the ball in a recent NFLPA poll of players. He will get a head coaching job sooner rather than later, and he could be the guy the Titans picked to work with Rand Carthon on their rebuild.
Which is funny because as of this morning on bookies.com, which has odds for the next Titans head coach, Aaron Glenn is not on the list.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, so Mike McDonald, the Ravens defensive coordinator, is the favorite right now at plus 350. Ben Johnson at plus 425. Brian Callahan, who has gotten requested a second interview, is at plus 450. Bobby Slowick at plus 750. Brian Johnson from the Eagles at plus 1,000. Mike Kafka at plus 1,400. And Antonio Pierce at plus 1,500.
Well, a question for him. So who's your offensive staff? Who's coming with you? Like Jerry Maguire with the goldfish in the bag. Who's coming with you for Glenn?
I don't even know. Where was he at before Detroit? Do we know his resume? He was a DB coach somewhere. Was he at Dallas? I can't remember.
Aaron Glenn, a 15-year NFL vet, he coached DBs in Cleveland and New Orleans from 2014 to 2020.
New Orleans is the place I remember. Yep.
Then he has been the same, and they just fired the guy who was the OC there. So that guy's
Pete
Carmichael.
He's been there for a while, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you like Pete Carmichael, there you go. He is available. And then he's been the Lions DC since 2021.
Mm-hmm. Which, until this year, they weren't that good on defense. And this year, you probably say they're just okay.
Yeah, numbers. Yeah. The numbers don't pop out.
Yeah. So when everybody goes there, I go, Vrabel was 32nd. See, you just don't know. That's why I said the head coach has now become a CEO.
Right.
And so do you have those leadership qualities? That's why I said it's tough. That's what I said. They may not get it right on the first go-round. And everybody, we're laughing at the Texans. It took them 3 times. 3 times.
3 years even.
Right, 3 years in a row.
Which is just
crazy.
That goes against everything everybody says about how to do any of this stuff.
Do you think Amy and Rand, well, I guess it's more of a question about Amy. Do you think she's the type of owner that would do that? That if this year, whoever they hire, it's clearly not the guy, or she doesn't think it's clearly the guy, that she wouldn't give him a second year? She would make a change after 1 year like the Texans did?
For me, we don't know what the back conversations are. I think that's what doomed Vrabel too. I think he said he didn't want to rebuild. And then they ran and then was like, I think we should rebuild. He said, okay, then. Well, and then come to find out, they should have rebuilt. See, so the conversation is, when they come in there, do they say, okay, this is going to be a 2 to 3 year window of where we can get to where we want to be? Or do they say, hey, I think I can make a quick turnaround and she may see if they can live up to that? So I don't know what those back conversations are. I have no idea. This is a tough one.
Yeah, it is. And there's plenty of competition. There's still 6 other teams out there who need to find a coach. Let's squeeze in Malika's call right quick. Hey, Malika.
Hey, Nikki. Hey, guys.
Hey, Malika.
Here's my thing. My thing is, I don't care who we hire. We just need to win. Vrabel had 6 years. He only had 1 good season, and I'll give this new coach 2 years. If he does great and gets us 2 winning seasons, great. If he doesn't, move on. Vrabel had way too much time. He was a disappointment. Thanks, guys.
Oh, Malika, that's unlike her. She came off the top rope today.
Wait, he did have 2 seasons, right?
He did have.
He said 1.
Yeah.
Would you let's see if you're considering 2019 a good season or like
19,
obviously,
you go
yeah.
all the way to the
19
AFC
you go to the AFC
Championship.
Championship, and then 2020 was the year you won that division, and then 2021 was when you got the first overall. So it, three.
Yeah, three pretty solid seasons. Three pretty solid seasons for him. But the last 2 seasons left a lot to be desired, and a lot of the same problems that they couldn't seem to fix, including with the offensive line. So whomever they hire, boy, they got to fix that.
Right. And maybe he's also said, I can fix it, and then that you didn't fix it. It was worse.
Oh, my gosh.
See, so that's what I'm saying. I think there was other factors here that we'll never know what the conversations were going into the season and how they operated in the offseason. Remember, they never wanted to say rebuild. Vrabel said, hey, I'm not part of no rebuild. That's what he said. See, that's what I'm saying. So you set the expectations to the owner. She's going to hold you accountable. When the other guy says, hey, I think we should rebuild. And he goes, okay, then. Well, I'll follow your lead. I'll be collaborative and give you everything you need. Those rumors out there of trading Byard and Henry, they were real. Rest assured of that.
Yeah, Henry talked about that. Matter of fact, we could probably get into this a little bit on the other side. He was on Bus and talked about his possible trade destinations. And
2 of them in the playoffs, he said.
Mm-hmm.
2 teams.
Well, let's get into that next. This is interesting stuff. We'll get into it on the other side. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
You know.
All right, 2024 is here, man. We're halfway through the first dang month of the year. You got snow on the ground, plenty of that. But do you have plenty of hair on your head? Because if you don't, I know where you can go to make that. You can find solutions instead of more problems. It's WeGrowHair.com. It's PAI Medical. Been talking about them now for years on this station, and so did my friend JT, and so have others. And maybe you see the billboards around town. And I'll say this: when you're out driving around and you see the billboards and you see the before and the after pictures, that could be you. It could be you instead of the guy in the picture. You can go to WeGrowHair.com and you can see real stories from real people and what they came in looking like and what their time at PAI made them look like, right? They got their hair back. They got their confidence back, whatever it was. The answers were all there. So WeGrowHair.com, that's the place to go. Or I'll tell people this all the time when they ask me about PA. I say, make an appointment, 615-376-6010. Make an appointment. It's a free consultation. They'll give you a game plan. You'll be blown away, and you'll be ready to, let's say, have 2024 be a great hair year for you. So call them today. Again, 615-376-6010.
Life is busy. We could all use some extra time in our day, which is exactly why Two Rivers Ford offers mobile service. We'll bring the service to your driveway at no additional charge. Oil changes, brakes, batteries, the certified technicians at Two Rivers will perform basic maintenance on your vehicle wherever you are, so you'll have more time for moments like this. Schedule your mobile service appointment by scanning the QR code or calling Two Rivers Ford today.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone, hour number 2 on a hump day, meaning you're halfway through the week. There's the nexus of the sports talk universe. Most of you had been out of the house all week, at least a bunch of you. I wonder how many people have just broken under the weight of being in their home with their kids all week.
Oh, that's
trying to get anything done.
Oh,
my wife on a Zoom meeting this morning, both my kids yelling her name at one time.
Oh, my.
And Dad has to go around and be like, shut it down. She's on Zoom. Then I hear her say, like, everybody's trying to get my attention.
Yeah, guess what I did today? My wife was on a Zoom, even though I still took her in today because she refuses to drive, but she wanted to go in. So I took her in. But when she's on early, 7:30, I forgot. I start yelling, woo, it smells good up in here, honey. You cooked some good breakfast.
Oh, no.
Be quiet, I'm on a Zoom call.
She was trying to close a multi-million-dollar deal. That smells good in here.
Ooh, it smells good up in this kitchen, man. Oh, man, I can't wait to eat. And I was provoked by our making us some lunch meat sandwiches for dinner. So that's why
making dinner at breakfast time.
No. We didn't have, a cooked dinner. We made sandwiches.
Okay.
And so she felt bad.
So
she
then
made
you got
the
breakfast cooked.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yes.
Hey, man, nobody makes a decision. My wife will be like, I'm having cereal. You guys can just rock and roll.
Yeah, that's kind of where it was. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm not that hungry anyway. Don't worry about it.
I'm sorry, man.
I made me a turkey
sandwich.
But I toasted it. I went all next level, made it like it was special.
That does.
I toasted on the stove now, like you do
Like
grilled cheese. Yeah,
just
that's
turkey.
how I did. Yeah.
Did you have cheese gluing it all together?
Oh yes, I did.
That's good.
Yeah, I put it next level.
Yeah, I'm totally good with that. But just like the cold turkey for dinner. I eat what gets put in front of me, and my wife does a great job with all that. But if the whole family can't make a decision, she would just eat a bowl of cereal and be fine. I eat enough cereal. I can't do it twice a day.
Ooh.
Titans coaching searches, stuff. There's stuff today. So Dan Graziano reports a second interview request made for Brian Callahan, who's the Bengals OC, doesn't call plays. 39 years old. He's been the Bengals OC for the last 5 years, but didn't call plays. I had a Vol fan who was very excited because Brian Callahan worked at the beginning of his career in Denver with Peyton Manning. Oh, man, that guy worked with Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning said real good stuff about him.
You know who else worked with Peyton
Don't
Manning?
even the Jets guy, right?
Adam
Denver
Gase.
Broncos. Who?
Adam Gase.
Yeah.
Adam Gase.
Also got a glowing review from Peyton Manning.
Boy, that did not
I
work.
try to say, man, it's hard to tell.
Boy, I had people excited, though. My Vols fan, he's like, I saw an interview with Manning. He's saying great stuff about him, Brian Callahan. Now, as you pointed out, his dad was an OG, former head coach, but still current offensive line coach. It's 2 for 1. You get an offensive line OG and Bill Callahan. If he were to work out, if that's the direction. Graziano reports Aaron Glenn is a name to keep an eye on. I guess Jeremy Fowler, even this morning on RK Dub, mentioned Glenn and Bobby Slowick as the guy to keep an eye on.
Mm.
So I think if we just went around town and said, who do you want? I think it'd be the Lions offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, because everybody wants offense. These guys are young. So Ben Johnson, not the disgraced former sprinter, but the Lions OC. He's 37. I think Bobby Slowick. The one thing I like the most about Slowick is this. I like the numbers. I liked how good they looked. They made the Browns defense look silly. I liked all that stuff. But I am the big hurt the other people in the division guy.
Yes.
I live for that. Like when the Titans signed Danico Autry, who had been on the Colts, I was like, sweet mother of pearl, look at this.
And then he went out there and dominated every time he played the Colts.
Yep. I love hitting them. I love that. I love that. Bobby Slowick's 36 years old. 1 year as the Texans OC. He was a defensive analyst in Washington for 3 years. Then he worked for PFF.
He helped create, I saw something today, he helped create the grading system for PFF.
So like it or not like it, Robert Slowick was right there, part of it. He was in San Francisco 2017 to 2022 with Rand. So their time there, they had a lengthy amount of time there together.
Well, he would know better than most. So That doesn't mean he's gonna get it. I mean, and sometimes guys, when they get in a position of making decisions, they kind of go outside of, okay, that's what I saw that I like, but there were some things that I saw that I don't like. And if I ever get in a position to hire, this is how that model of a head coach, that's what I want to look at. And we don't know what that is. So all we can try to do is connect the dots, which you did a great job there, man. It seemed like that'd be a no-brainer, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went a whole different direction. You just never know. And I just hope they make the right decision. I'm going to support it, and then we'll see what we go, and then I'm going to evaluate them as we go along. Vrabel grew on the job and became a really good coach.
Grew with his game time decision making,
yes,
all that stuff.
About.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, sure did. We teased this. We got a couple minutes left in the segment. Derrick Henry was on Bussin' with the Boys. There was a lot of stuff that we could probably kind of mine and pull out of this interview, but we were kind of laughing about this before the break. But how close did he come to being traded? Because Blaine was talking about maybe the head coach didn't want to rebuild. Maybe the people in the front office and all the scouts and Rand did want to rebuild, and they just could never get on the same page. They traded Byard, but that was it. And only Byard.
Yeah, but that was it before the trade deadline.
Yep. So Derrick Henry was talking to Will and Taylor on Bussin', and I think you guys probably heard some or all of this. You have the actual audio. Okay, Bananas, Johnny on the spot. Let's hear what he said about his potential trade.
Did you think you were going to? Because you were obviously in a lot of speculation, I'll say. I don't know how many conversations were taking place.
Well, I feel like it was close. It was close.
For real?
Like yeah.
You know something?
It was close. It was close, boys. It was close.
To who?
It was
in the playoffs?
Yeah. It was I know 2 for sure. It was, I mean, I don't know the other one. I don't know if that would have happened, but one of them, I felt like it was pretty close.
What makes you
A lot went down between that little saga with the trade and all that stuff.
And they got into it, discussing this a little bit deeper, and they were prodding him, okay, AFC or NFC, and he didn't want to answer, but they basically almost got him to answer, well, AFC. And
He said AFC?
Yes. And teams in the playoffs, and he was like, that was teams made the playoffs. They taped this last week.
Yeah, it was before Wild Card Weekend, so it was all the
everybody
playoffs.
who was in was
all
in.
the playoff teams.
Yes. And he said, yeah, in the playoffs. So they basically hemmed him down to the Ravens and what sounded like the Browns. Is that what you got out of it, Bananas?
So my other, whenever I heard it, my other immediate team was the Browns, a team that lost a running back, just finally started to find their stride with a quarterback and was like, let's go get a home run hitter. But I think the Ravens was for sure. The Browns is just kind of speculation for me, but I think the Ravens was there.
I just wonder what stopped it, because we saw him have a nice finish to the season. He got his moment here. He got to say goodbye to everybody. It was a fantastic day. They knocked the Jags out of the playoffs. He finished first in the AFC in rushing. Like, everybody got their last moments with him, and he got his last moment here. But I wonder if it ever came out like, well, they offered a 3 and a 4, right? Or just whatever they offered. Because I know people always say, well, he's Derrick Henry, you want a 1 for him. He probably, nobody got a 1 for anybody.
Well, remember, we didn't know how true this was, but it did come out that said that Amy stepped in that and kind of vetoed it. Now, again, we didn't know how true that was at the time, but now you're sitting here wondering, wow, he just said that it was that close. So someone of that substantial power had to have stepped in and been like, this ain't happening.
It absolutely was Amy. And it was absolutely Baltimore. I don't know the other teams, though. I did know those. I did know that. Yeah. I can connect the dots. Harbaugh. Oh, yeah.
Boy.
They said he still got it.
I mean, he does. He showed he still had it down the stretch of the season. He did.
You see him in the last game? It's the same offensive line he'd been running behind.
They had a good day, though.
They sure did.
Yeah, I will not.
I wish we'd seen about 5 more weeks of that group together.
I will not be surprised
6
if
more,
he is a
7.
Baltimore Raven starting in the fall.
Well, what would change your mind? Because that's exactly what I would say unless they go win it without him.
That's a fair point. But to think about it this way as well, if they win it, what's one way they can just get better? Already a Super Bowl team, they can go ahead and get better.
True.
Man,
Even better,
run it-
we repeat.
Exactly. They were thinking about running it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I was Jerry Jones, I'd find out where he was training.
He's in Dallas.
I'd drive over there and I'd say, hey man, we had our best and we got a running back like you. Him and that star on his helmet, boy, they sell him on the Super Bowl vision. Although they haven't won one in how many decades now?
Well, they're going to have to go lock down some offensive linemen
Yeah.
first.
Are there all their linemen free agents?
Not all of them, but I know their
That
left
Smith
tackle
is.
for
Yeah.
sure is.
That guy,
free
we
agent.
got to talking about him the other day. He has missed so many games. I think you said he's been injured a lot, Joseph, and he's.
Yeah, in the chat, chat said that. Yeah,
The chat
No,
said
we
that.
we talked about. You went through the games.
It was
Mickey.
like 4 games 1 year and
13 and
13,
6.
and
It was
then-
like, oh my god.
yeah, he's missed a lot of
Dang
games.
it. That would have been a nice little fine there. Knew it was too good to be true.
You know, Titans drafting way ahead of them this year, so they can get the first tackle off the board. They may very well get the first shot at the first tackle off the board at 7.
Well, I don't know what the other teams need.
Boy, if they fall in love with tight ends and quarterbacks, and
But why do you think that? The other teams aren't going to draft a tackle?
I have seen multiple, and these are just mock drafts, which you know I love, but I've seen several where the first tackle off the board is at 7 to the Titans. It's just fun to dream.
I've seen some mock drafts where the first tackle off the board is at like 9, and I'm like,
What?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just people playing around and just.
What? No. What people?
The Athletic was one that I saw.
I'm talking about some vetted people who actually look up this stuff, like Justin.
I saw-
him. I mean, you know, just
I
people,
saw
not
one
them.
mock draft from, I think it was called the 33rd team, which I think is one of those.
It's a bunch of ex-players
Yeah.
and GMs and stuff. Yeah, I get emails
and
from them.
one of they put out like one of those mock drafts like every day, and like I think they had Olu Fashanu from Penn State going at like 9, and I was like, if he drops down to 9, I wonder who the Titans got. 'Cause I didn't go like read the full article. It was just kind of that spot where it shows you like the 1, the 3, the 8,
Well, we need to take the break because we're at the 16. And we got to get to our man, Jordan Janney. He'll join us next. NFL headlines. What's the latest that he's hearing here, there, and everywhere with all the coaching stuff? We got playoffs going on. We got plenty to discuss, and we will do that next with our man, Jordan Janney on Blaine and Mickey, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. You ready to look and feel better about yourself? 2024 is your year. We Grow Hair. That's the only company in the state of Tennessee to have what is called multi-unit hair grafting, and it's a procedure that only PAI, only We Grow Hair, has. It's a trademark procedure. It gives you more hair in one procedure. It saves you time and money. Think about this. Unhappy with your hair, tired of watching it go. Well, this procedure will have your own hair growing back on your own head again. It'll do it. There's no voodoo. There's no magic or anything. It's your own hair growing on your own head. They can explain it all. You spend one day doing that, then you spend the rest of your life with hair again. Boy, what a neat concept. Can't help you, though, if you don't call or if you don't go and check it all out. WeGrowHair.com. That's the website. You can see real men, real women, real results, just like you could have if you go there. The other thing is they want you to call and have a free private consultation. It's free to go and get a game plan, and you'll love the game plan, and then you'll love the results when you do it. Natural results from the company you can trust. PAI Medical Group, WeGrowHair.com. Call now, 615-376-6010.
to move on.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Boy, lots going on around the NFL world. CBS Sports all over it, including our guy Jordan DeJani, who joins us now. JD, this is a heck of a start to the offseason, not just here but everywhere. You got playoff teams and people trying to win games. You got, well, now 7 teams trying to hire a head coach. There's no shortage of headlines right now for any of us. And good to have you on board again this week, brother.
What's going on, my friends? Hope you guys enjoyed all the snow and ice that we got. Maybe more is on the way here Thursday night. But yeah, what a start to the NFL offseason. In fact, I almost forgot that we had playoff football to watch in Super Wildcard Weekend because of how crazy the coaching carousel got before we got to postseason football. So still a lot of things to happen. And, there's other people hypothesizing that maybe some other jobs could come open this week, depending on what happens in the NFC East. So hold on, buckle up. It's not over just yet.
Well, let's just start with that since you mentioned it. What is going on right now in Dallas and Philly? Because those are the markets that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of people are wondering that question exactly. I mean, with the Cowboys, it's a narrative that we've been talking about for several years now. Mike McCarthy has incredible success in the regular season, and they get to this point where they are hosting a playoff game against the youngest team in NFL playoff history since the merger, and they go out there and just lay an egg. And, I think that's something that really sticks out in the mind of owner Jerry Jones, who clearly wants to win. And the only winning that really matters in the National Football League is what you do in January and February. And the Dallas Cowboys have not done that much winning in those months as of late. And that's why I think that the door is open for a change, especially when we're talking about this intriguing of an offseason. When you got candidates out there like Bill Belichick, some guy by the name of Mike Vrabel's another guy to keep an eye on. There's just a lot of spots that or a lot of coaching candidates that could pique the interest of owners around the NFL. Now, as for the Eagles, I'll keep this short. I mean, they faltered down the stretch. And I think that even though Nick Sirianni, you look at his record, what he's done with the Philadelphia Eagles over the past few years, getting to the Super Bowl, that's incredibly impressive. But is he the leader that you want leading your franchise? Is he the guy capable of taking you where you want to go? And I think that's a fair question to ask because you lose 2 of the top coordinators in the game, and it automatically shows with what the franchise put on the field here in 2023. So I'm keeping an eye on that situation as well.
Keeping an eye on things with Jordan DeJani of CBS Sports, who joins us now.
Well, I'm going to go back to the Cowboys there. Do you think it's time for them to maybe dismantle the team or trade Dak Prescott? I mean, what are your thoughts on what you saw there at this point in time, even with McCarthy?
I think that's a great question, but I'm not there just yet. And I say that because they had such success in the regular season. Now, did they beat up on bad teams more than good teams? Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say. I think the schedule worked to their advantage as well. But I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I still kind of question if he's a great quarterback, if he's going to be capable of orchestrating a deep postseason run. But the talent that Dallas possesses on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, I'm not looking at this team as one that's set up for a rebuild or one that would benefit from tearing it down and building it back up. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how I view the situation right now.
Well, the Chiefs will get the Bills in Buffalo. Man, how do you see this all playing out after the Chiefs just stormrolled the Dolphins?
Yeah, this is an exciting matchup. I mean, in his 16th career playoff start, Patrick Mahomes is making his first career playoff start on the road. And I certainly think that's notable. His streak of 15 straight playoff games without a true road game is the longest such streak by any quarterback in NFL history. Now, against Miami, I really wasn't surprised with that outcome. We knew that the Dolphins absolutely stunk in the cold. Tua Tagovailoa looked like he was cold the entire game. That offense did not show up in so many different facets, whether it was the quarterbacking, whether it was the play calling. They did not look the same. Now, as for the Chiefs offense, they were facing off against a defense that was dealing with numerous injuries at all 3 levels. I'm not trying to look past that. But it seems like Patrick Mahomes really got back on track with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. He was 15 of 22 for 201 yards and a touchdown when targeting those 2 players, but just 8 of 19 for 61 yards when targeting everyone else. So I'm looking at Rashee Rice as someone who has emerged into a pillar on this offense, someone who could serve as an X factor against a Buffalo defense that is dealing with numerous injuries. I mean, Tyrell Dodson did not play in the wild card. Terrell Bernard exited the game with an ankle. Linebacker Balin Spector exited the game. Teron Johnson is in concussion protocol. Rajul Douglas did not play. Buffalo's injuries are really something to keep an eye on this week because it could end up playing a major factor in the outcome.
Man, was I impressed with Baker Mayfield? I know it was against the team of multiple problems there with the Eagles, but he still got it done, man. You think Baker will be back in Tampa?
I think he will be. I think him winning a playoff game is absolutely huge. And the way that Tampa Bay finished the regular season strong is notable as well. I don't know if I view this team as a legitimate contender, but I absolutely do think that they have a shot against the Detroit Lions. And speaking about Baker's postseason success real quickly, he's one of just 3 quarterbacks in NFL history with 3 or more passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a playoff win for multiple franchises. The other 2 quarterbacks that have done that are Brett Favre and some guy by the name of Tom Brady as well. So this Buccaneers defense is playing incredibly well. They did great against Jalen Hurts, forcing that really awkward and terrible safety. Tampa Bay is a team I'm not exactly overlooking just yet, even though they have to face up against the high-flying Detroit Lions in Detroit.
Well, speaking of Detroit, Dan Campbell, man, he got those guys rolling.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Lions' first playoff game since, or their first win since 1991, which snapped the longest active drought in the NFL. I think they also snapped the longest playoff losing streak as well. And what I go back to is, there were some inconsistencies on the defensive side of the ball, like a lot of people were anticipating against the Rams. But that defensive front did a great job getting pressure on Matthew Stafford. They got to him a couple of times, forced a couple of those bumps and bruises that certainly affected the veteran quarterback. But, man, I just feel like this win in particular has to be insane for Jared Goff's confidence, not only to win this game against a Lions legend, but also Sean McVay as well, his former head coach, who was fine moving on from him for Matthew Stafford back in the day. I think Goff only had 5 incompletions in the box score as well. So the Lions, they showed up, and that was the most important thing because this is a team that's been inconsistent at home. Their offense is only stopped when they shoot themselves in the foot, which they've done time and time again at home. I go back to Thanksgiving watching them against the Packers, but they showed up, they took care of business, and I think that they are really starting to build some momentum for themselves on both sides of the ball.
Jordan DeJaney, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Man, you did a great job breaking down what we saw last week. What are your best bets for this weekend? I just hope I hope that we're betting on closer games. One close game of all the games. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. And looking at these spreads, I mean, I was a little surprised to see that we got so many around double digits. And maybe Vegas is kind of expecting a couple of blowouts once again. And I think that's completely fair. So I don't have my best bets article out just yet. That's probably something I'm going to be doing tonight. But we did do a good job on props. My number one bet last week was Julio Jones over 1.5 receptions. And that was a popular bet. He ended up getting 3 catches, so we made some money off of that as well. We had the Chiefs money line parlayed with a couple of other things too, so that was a good win as well.
What's next for Bill Belichick, in your opinion, and do you think that he is waiting possibly for Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's very possible to wonder if he is waiting for Dallas. I think Bill Belichick, being 72, 71 years old and taking a spin on the coaching carousel, he has success in his mind. And what I mean by that is that he wants an opportunity where he feels comfortable that he can come in and win games immediately because he's got that NFL record in his sights for most wins by any NFL head coach. So I think he's going to take his time in trying to determine his next landing spot. And I feel like there's a lot of potential candidates out there who are kind of keeping a side eye out there for the Dallas Cowboys or the Philadelphia Eagles. But let's imagine for 1 second that Dallas and Philadelphia, they retain their current head coaches. Then we saw Bill Belichick interview with the Atlanta Falcons, which was such a weird tweet to see on my social media feed. The Atlanta Falcons have interviewed Bill Belichick for their head coaching job.
Yep.
But I really do think that seems like a fit. And the reason I say that is because there's been smoke around Atlanta for several months now. I think it was the Boston Globe that's been talking about this potential marriage for weeks on weeks now. And we certainly saw NFL media and a couple of other outlets pick up on that. Now the interviews come to fruition as well. You look at Atlanta just in general, I feel like their defense made some huge strides last offseason. They're not a laughingstock anymore. And then offensively, you have several pieces put in place where you can find success through, whether that be Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Tyler Algier, Bijan Robinson. You got to figure out the quarterback position, no doubt about that. But I view Atlanta as one of the top 3 jobs in the NFL, in my opinion.
Hanging out with our man Jordan Dejani from CBS Sports at Jordan Dejani on Twitter. Follow him there.
Well, Jordan, man, which game are you looking forward to the most, man? Lamar, C.J. Stroud, man, I'm looking for that. But all of the games are really good, man. Which one you most looking forward to?
Yeah, good question. I mean, all of them sound awesome, but I think it probably has to be that Chiefs-Bills rematch because I'm interested to see if Mahomes, like, if he's the Mahomes of old, even though he's on the road in a raucous environment, which Buffalo certainly has, or if he's going to struggle a little bit, because we go back to the stats and, Patrick Mahomes, this has been one of his biggest down years in the NFL up to this point. And I mentioned that he got back on track with Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, but this Buffalo defense, when healthy, especially in the secondary, they've been flying around. So if you take away Travis Kelce, a player that Buffalo has faced year after year now, and they have some level of experience with that, and take away Rashee Rice as well, in the bitter cold, at home, the defense, the whole environment's going to be rocking. I'm leaning towards the Bills in that matchup, but I feel like that's got to be the game of the week.
Random question, but the Saints fired their OC. Anybody in mind, you think?
It's the 2024 edition of Groomer.
Okay.
John Gruden,
Exactly
right?
what I was thinking.
Yeah, exactly right. And we might have talked about it on your show, I forget, but John Gruden has been involved with the Saints franchise for the last year. He was a consultant, but he certainly was doing a little bit more than that. He was asked for his advice on the quarterback with Derek Carr, since he has experience with him. According to reports, he was attending team meetings when they were down. I think it was in week 17. They went to team dinner and things like that. Now, originally, I forget the outlet, I think it was NOLA.com. They reported that Gruden is not being considered to take the place of Carmichael. In fact, many people believe Carmichael might be safe, but of course they parted ways with him after something crazy like 15 seasons. So now for the first time since I was in like middle school, the Saints need to go out and find a different offensive coordinator. And, Gruden, according to reports, is being considered to get a spot on the staff. I don't know if that's going to be offensive coordinator, but that's something to keep an eye on for sure.
I saw Mike Tomlin was coming back for, I guess, the final year of his contract, which is very abnormal for a coach of his ilk. But he said that the stepping aside was unfounded with some report. How does a report get out like that about that he was going to step aside and then that's not happening?
Right. I think that's a great question. And, honestly, I was a little surprised to see that he was returning and that he already made his decision, because if anything I've learned this offseason is that when there's smoke, there's fire. I tried to ignore the smoke in Tennessee, right? But there certainly was enough to oust Mike Vrabel, which is something I was surprised with. So when I saw that report, and it was reported by multiple outlets, I believe, Mike Tomlin, at the very least, was considering his future, considering maybe stepping away, not to coach for another team, but maybe just step away for a year indefinitely, whatever it may be, because he's been doing this for so long. I thought that, that was something that was a possibility. But as you mentioned, he already came out and said that he's back. I don't know how that report gets out there, especially if he's right and it was unfounded. But the bottom line is that the Steelers are retaining their lead man.
I saw the Eagles say Jason Kelce probably going to retire. Do you think he's a Hall of Famer?
Is this the second time Adam Schefter has stolen the moment for one of these great players who's retiring, whether it was Tom Brady, whether it was Jason Kelce?
He may come back.
I saw yeah, now he's going to come back, right, just to stick it to the reporter. No, I mean, with Kelce, man, I do think he's going to end up retiring, first of all. We saw him talk on his podcast, I think, earlier this morning. He was basically getting emotional talking about what could have been his last game. And when he makes his retirement announcement, he's, he wants to do it in a very formal way and thank all the people that have made his NFL journey worthwhile and very successful. As for his Hall of Fame case, I absolutely think he is, because when it comes to the Hall of Fame, there's so many things to consider. Not only your on-field impact, but your off-field impact as well. I mean, Jason Kelce is a very famous man who's made contributions to the city of Philadelphia on and off the field. He is a legend. There's no doubt about it. And he's been one of the more consistent and one of the best centers in the NFL during this modern era. So, yeah, I would lean towards saying Jason Kelsey is a Hall of Famer.
Last one here, trying to help me understand how now the NFL does the interview process with the head coaches. I know they did Zoom the first time. What does it actually mean when you get the second interview as they announced with Brian Callahan? Does that mean he's the front runner, or is just he's the first one they announced as he was one of the first ones he interviewed, I guess?
Yeah, good question. So I don't have the exact rules set up in front of me, but I know you have to wait until I think it's after the divisional round for that face-to-face or whatever it may be. There's different rules considering if you're in the playoffs or not. Mr. Callahan, of course, is not in the postseason. Now, is it fair to speculate that he's the front runner for the job? I'm not 100% certain I can say that. But if you want to say he's top 5, I would totally get on board with that. If you get a second interview request, then I think that you are someone that the franchise is seriously considering. So he's definitely a candidate worthwhile to spend time on. And the same could go for Mr. Aaron Glenn as well, considering what ESPN put out today. Now, ESPN's not saying that he's the front runner, that he's a favorite, but they were told by sources close to the situation that he is a quote-unquote strong candidate. So that's another guy to keep an eye on as well.
Which is funny when you do the betting, what you do, he's not even listed.
Yeah, that's true. And I will say this, with odds that you can actually bet on, I don't know if sports books such as Caesars, BetMGM, they offer those where you can actually place money on them. But there are different lines makers such as Sportsline, who we work with, that will put out odds for candidates to land those jobs. And it's kind of what they believe is going to happen, where the smoke is pointing to. I don't know if you can actually place money on them unless you're betting offshore, which, of course, is quote unquote illegal, and people don't do that anymore. But that's something to keep in mind as well.
Quote unquote illegal. Hey, like a minute or so, your biggest takeaway or takeaways from Derrick Henry on bussing?
Yeah, one of the bigger ones was that it seems like a Titans reunion is not as feasible as maybe it once was, and that's due to the firing of Mike Vrabel. It feels like Derrick Henry kind of said that without saying that. He also, as you guys probably mentioned during the course of your show, that he was very, 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 very close to getting traded. That was something that was a little new to me as well. It was a good podcast, a good interview. I enjoyed watching the guys take a trip down memory lane with that 2019 postseason run where they really thought they were going to win the Super Bowl. So it's a good interview. I would definitely check it out if you're a Titans fan.
Yes, sir. JD, great stuff, man. Always tons of new content coming out at CBSSports.com in their NFL section, and Jordan and his crew doing a fantastic job. Thanks for the time today, buddy. Enjoy the snow.
Anytime, guys. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. We say goodbye to JD. All right, we got into this discussion a little bit. I don't even know if it was on air or off about where tackles might land in this draft. Coach Mack was on with us. He really likes the tackles in this draft, especially the top, 24 or so, as he outlined on our show on Tuesday yesterday. But interesting mock draft out there. I mean, mock drafts, it's out there. Guys are about to go to the Senior Bowl. Interesting scenario in a mock draft we'll share with you next.
Did you know Eurofix has a very different business philosophy? They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready for when your emergency pops up out of nowhere. And have you ever noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment for vehicle repair? Well, some dealers can be more than 2 weeks out just to get a freaking appointment. But not Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs that beat the dealer without the dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car right now. So if you're tired waiting forever to get your car into the shop, then call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, "We will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away, and we mean right now." Eurofix repairs all European cars, as well as they say yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years, and all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But I always tell Blaine to do. The notification.
All right, then. Was this on your laid-back playlist? This is laid-back. Now, it gets to cooking at the end with the guitar solos. You ever run out of the tunnel to this one in your ears? No?
Hotel California?
Yeah, man. You like a little laid-back something. This one just has a slow boil to it.
No, I didn't do that one.
Never too late to add it to your list. Speaking of lists, it's about to be the season of lists and the season of mock draft lists. And Dane Brugler, who's the Athletics mock draft guy, I enjoy mock drafts. I know they're like works of fiction.
No, you do more than enjoy. You love them.
I love them. I'm not going to lie.
It's okay.
And they're like works of fiction. They're just people's version of here's what I think's going to happen, right? This is, and some of it is like, well, this team doesn't have a quarterback, so I'll put them down for a quarterback. Some of these things are very obvious, like the Titans need offensive line help. Interesting, though, one from Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and he's one of the guys who's been doing this for a while. I always enjoy his perspective. So, Chicago Bears from Carolina, number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, quarterback, USC. Nobody's surprised by that. Washington Commandskins, Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. Probably not a huge surprise there. New England Patriots, they need weapons. Well, there's a weapon out there, Marvin Harrison Jr. Got him going to them, number 3 for Gerard Mayo.
They may take a quarterback, too. New coach.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. Arizona Cardinals have the 4th pick, Malik Neighbors, wide receiver, LSU. That surprised me a tad. I know a lot of people really like him, but at 4?
Well, with Arizona, the wide receiver is kind of a playmaker or something that they really need, especially after the DeAndre Hopkins left there. I know they have Marquise Brown, but I'm pretty sure he's a free agent.
This dude, Neighbors has 34 catches of 20-plus yards. So when you say playmaker, he has been a playmaker. Los Angeles Chargers of Los Angeles, Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
They also need another playmaker.
Now I get everybody talking about, boy, can you take a tight end at number 5? I know he's different. He's a different cat, but the whole tight end at 5?
Oh, Kyle Pitts went at 8, so he would break Kyle Pitts' record of the earliest tight end taken.
Kyle Pitts has been on a milk carton, man.
He had a better year this year.
He did.
But what was his numbers?
I know he had 3 touchdowns, which is more than he had in the first 2 seasons combined.
Just for saying that right there, that's
all you need to say.
That's why, you're unemployed. You can't make the people upstairs look like ding-dongs, and you don't utilize the dude. They took him high. You took the job. You said you utilized him, and you didn't. Maybe he's not as good as you thought, but you got to find a way. Then you go. Didn't he sign Jonnu too?
Yeah, he signed Jonnu. Yeah.
Like, hey man.
And Michael Pruitt.
Yeah.
Well, they're the Atlanta, Tennessee Falcons.
Yeah, right. But you better throw to that dude.
Yeah, they didn't throw to those dudes.
They had. I remember at one point in the season. I know this is off topic. They had Jonnu Smith or Michael Pruitt throwing to Jonnu Smith, or the other way around, something like that. Kyle Pitts wasn't even in the game.
One thing I'm not gonna get fired is I'm gonna throw to the guys we took high.
But I'm gonna use other tight ends even to throw to them. Is that?
I mean, they didn't have a quarterback, so
yeah.
Well, no, they had a quarterback. They had quarterbacks. They just didn't play well. You said they didn't have a quarterback, literally.
I would have left Heineke in. I would have. He's a dog. Yep. I get he's got limitations.
Yeah.
I saw what that guy did in Washington. Hey, man. He was out there yelling at people, had his helmet off. He was shotgunning beers in the XFL games.
But guess what, though? See? Who you think wanted Ritter? The coach that was the coach.
Yeah.
So you wanted to show that you was right instead of, I got to win.
I would have showed that I wanted to win because, I mean, yeah, I got you.
Remember he put him in? You saw how the team looked when we played him.
Yeah.
Just look at that game.
That dude.
I was like, whoa, we may lose.
Yeah.
Put him back in.
Oh, no.
Put Ritter back in.
No, it was nerve-wracking watching that. Dane Brugler, number 6, New York Giants, Rome Odunze. I really like him. Rome Odunze, the
guy
receiver out of Washington.
Oh, yeah,
he's like big and fast and explosive and everything.
He's that's like, 3 wide receivers in the top. What number are you at?
6.
Now I'm at 7, and no one has taken a tackle. So if you were the Titans,
this is a possibility.
You would, and so the Titans, Joe Alt, tackle, number 7, Notre Dame. He only has like one sentence. I have nothing else to add, basically, is what it is.
Oh, so he said, no,
he
he's
has
a no-brainer.
long, like multiple paragraphs, and it's like, Alt and Skoronski kicking butt on the left side of the Titans' offensive line for the next decade is an easy pitch to make. I have nothing else to add. Number 8, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels could go in the top 5 or so.
So
Number 8 to who?
Falcons,
The Atlanta, Tennessee Falcons.
which I think would be a good fit for him. Goes to a place with a lot of playmakers. Coming from a place with a lot of playmakers.
He has.
I'm going that's what I thought they should have did, so I'm just doing it off the cuff. They trade for Fields.
See, all of this, those top 8 picks, all depends on what the Bears do at 1.
Bears.
All depends. If they because if they take a quarterback, then you're gonna have less quarterbacks there in the top 10. Because
Coach Mack always says there's the draft and there's the quarterback draft.
Yep.
And these dudes, I mean, we're about to see people getting crunk on quarterback stuff starting at the Senior Bowl.
They're going to get punch drunk.
Yeah.
And get fired.
Some will, based on who they pick.
But if that mock draft is true, the Titans better snag that tackle up. There should be no time wasted on the Titans are on the clock. Oh, the Titans have submitted their pick.
There you go. Titans are on that. Titans have submitted their pick. We submitted our show. It's over. It's time for 3HL next.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Fast.
Dang, it flies by.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
In between time.